Alright, so I'm going to another tier list, this time over refinement slots and what you can get in refinement. Obviously this is going to be a lot more subjective than the last list I did, because it entirely depends on what you're building your account for. Like if you're like a bow solo trap or something, bow attack will probably be like SS tier, and there won't be anything better you can get for it. But for general use, it will obviously be somewhere a bit different. My bias is probably going to come into it quite a lot, as like a quite aggressive, solo attacking, kind of reluctant rally lead kind of player. So make your own decisions and don't. This won't be one rule fits all. I'll just do it for like general use. So we'll just start from here. I think bow attack, like I said, if you're building into bows, it will be up here, but most people aren't, obviously. So I think probably somewhere like C tier realistically. And it's becoming a bit more popular recently with, what is it, Dima from NW1 having a bit of success with it. And then Wilkie on his streams pushing it a little bit. So we'll see where that goes, but for now, for most people, I think it's still pretty bad, because if you build your castle towards that, you just lose out so much that you can't solo attack really. You can't really join in with your alliance in joining rallies, if you're going full bows, that is. Like your event performance would dip. In Siege of Winterfell it works quite well, but like AC, if you don't have normal troops to reinforce with, that's a problem. But it's at least better than bow health and defense, because even if you're building into a bow trap, the idea is that your bows don't really get hit. Like you want to kill them on the wall, or at least as they're marching towards you after breaking down the wall, and then you rebuild it. So even if you're a bow trap, there are probably better things than this for it, like total attack or reinforcement capacity. And then hostile healing speed, we can probably do that with this hostile capacity. These are probably down here together. Obviously they're only really good if you're like a zero castle rally fill, I think. Maybe in one of the top alliances, where you just have no chance of holding solos at all. Like if you've got mega whales soloing you and you have troops returning from rallies and whatnot. I don't think there's really another time where this will be the best option. So it does have a niche use, but it's so niche, I don't think it can be any higher on a tier list, really. Because in most situations, even if you're a zero castle filling rallies, you can at least hope to sometimes hold them, and then building into like total attack, and the attacks and whatnot will be better. But there is a use for it occasionally. Wall defense, it's either D or C. Probably D realistically. It's the same with the bow attack, like it's such a niche use, it's only good for a very specific build where you want to kill people on your wall with bowmen. It will never have a better use than that unless there's huge buffs, because even if you're defending a lot, there'll just be better options to defend. Building speed and maybe like endurance recovery are probably the worst of these two utility ones. For new accounts, to be fair, building speed is probably very good. For like new players, it could probably go up a bit because of that. But for like, people who've been playing this game for a year or two now, you just have what honor banner stuff left, and it takes so long to accrue all those honor banners that you don't really need to speed through it anyway. So yeah, I'm one of these lower tiers still. Then Cav attack. Cav attack's obviously very good. We can probably do all the attacks at once. Inf Cav, Spear. The attacks are good. They can maybe go S tier even. especially if you're like a lower spending player, or at least not a top player, and you're building into just 2 lines, like you're running Spear, Cav, Imp Spear, Cav Spear, whatever. You'll get more effectiveness out of a single attack like this than you would like total attack, because the numbers are higher. Like for total attack to be better than these, you have to consistently be using all 3 troop types, or all 4 in some way. So for stuff like solo attacking, these attacks are very, very strong if you're running 2-line attacks. Obviously everyone knows attack is the best stat in the game, so these are definitely very solid options. Defense is B or C. I'll just put all of them in C for now. You could argue infantry could be a little bit higher, just because infantry has a bit more passive defense. Tier 4s are 65 Cav Spear of like late 50s, but I'm not sure it justifies it going higher in the tier list. Obviously with the defensive stats, you can do health too. I'll probably put them there. You lose so much flexibility because if you don't have it on your front line, it gets no value. So if you're like merit hunting or something, and you're just doing quick trips to kingdoms, and no one's really like hard countering or planning for your formation much, something like Inf Health could probably move up a bit. Because again, like defense, infantry has a lot more health than the other 2 unit types. But if there's any way that your formation can be planned for, it's a bit risky building into health like that, I think. Like if you're a rally lead or something, because it really telegraphs your formation. Like if I see someone attacking one of my alliance members and I check their stats and I see like Cav health in their refinement, I can just send a garrison with full spears because I know they're probably going to want to send spear front, Cav front. So it plays into those meta games where even if it's good, you just lose the surprise factor. So it loses some points for that, I think. There's the other utility ones, like training speed, research speed, motivation recovery. These are kind of decent, but you obviously lose PvP stats for them, so you only really want to use them on alt accounts, or like between fights, but it's a big investment, like swapping in and out of them. Things like healths on the front line are quite good to do this with. Like if you have all, say, spear health on every slot, and you're running spear front normally, and then you save for a few months on speed ups, you can swap all those healths to like research speed, burn all your speed ups, and then swap back, and that shouldn't be that expensive because both are quite easy to roll. Same with like training speed. Maybe if you get really badly zeroed and you just want to bubble up and train up, or you want to push towards like the Meister rank to get the buffs from that, and you just don't want to fight and want to boost your troops a ton, it could be good there. Motivation recovery again on alts, that's very good, especially if you're hitting alts and then last hitting them on your main and like your main alliance. You get a lot more chest that way. But for most main accounts, I wouldn't advise it. Army size, I've done a video on this, entirely dedicated to it. I obviously think army size is ridiculous. It has so many uses beyond just what it shows on the refinement tab. It's the only stat in refinement which gives more value than it just shows directly there, because it gives 30k army size, but that will always be more in practice normally. Like if you use an army size increase scroll, it will go up to 45k minimum. or 52.5k or 60k depending on how big a scroll you're using. Like, it's so good in events. In AC there's no troop limit on locations when defending, so the more troops you can get in there the better. In Siege of Winterfell it will give 90k army size across your free marches just from one slot. If you're blanking, say you have 200k army size in Refinement and you have 6 marches, that's like 1.8 million more troops you can hide if you consider the army size increase from like the 50% scroll. And that just changes so much. Unless you play so differently, build so many more troops, makes you so much more dangerous. If you're running like 2 or 3 line attacks in solo marches, you'll get more effectiveness out of army size than you would total attack or the attacks or anything else, except maybe like enemy army attack reduction if you're solo attacking into a ton of troops. So army size is just crazy, I think. There's not really many people it's bad for. Obviously, if you're heavily biased towards defending or trapping, it doesn't get as much value there. But for general use on most people, it's really good. I think enemy army attack reduction and total attack can be done together. They're basically the same stat, but with a variable that that dictates which is better. So enemy army attack reduction is better when you're attacking normally, and total attack is better when you're defending normally, because total attack is better when you have more troops participating, and enemy army attack reduction is better when you have less troops participating. So say you're solo attacking into 3 million troops with 800k, or if you're rallying into 15 million with 4 million, enemy army attack reduction will be better there because it will affect more troops. It will affect like 3.5 times more troops. Whereas if you're the guy defending with 3 million troops into the 800k, or defending with the 15 million into the 4 million, then total attack will be better. But both are very good. For my playstyle, enemy army attack reduction is up here. I think like most attacking aggressive players, it is an amazing stat. I think right up there with army size. But for general use, it's probably down here. Total attack, I think, has gone a bit better recently for a few reasons. One, bows are becoming a little bit more prominent for the reasons I said earlier. And also with the badge presets, because before it would be so clunky to change between front lines and formations. So even when you were a rally lead, if you weren't like a max account with all the total stats and glorious and whatnot, sometimes you just settle for your best stats over going into a hard counter. But now, with how easy it makes swapping formations with those badge presets, you can definitely get the value from the 15% on Imp, Cav and Spear individually, which makes that stat very good, I think. Much better than it was previously. Then enemy army defense reduction. I mean, compared to enemy army attack reduction, it's appalling because defense is the worst stat of the 3, and this will affect every line. So if they have bows, spears, cavs and imps, it will affect all of them, whereas this will only affect their front line. And there's just so many better options because of that. It gets such little value, I think. Same for enemy army health reduction. You could argue that should be down here too, but I'll put it 1 tier higher just because health is at least a better stat. I mean, the same could apply with these. The totals themselves. Like you never want to be in a situation where your front line is actually being broken through in the first place, at least not to a great extent. So if you're building into that, you're sort of setting yourself up for failure, I think. It would be much better to just have one really strong front line, and then strong counter damage, or like high attack on what would kill the units that would shred your front line. So like, if you have imp front, they're going to run cavs into it, even if you telegraph your formation. You can just run imp health and spear attack to sort of find a compromise there. I think that's better than just running total health. It's just not a good stat. Fortification defense, fortification attack, again they're awful. It's like what I said with bow health, bow defense, although like even in the bow trap builds, fortifications won't get much use. I feel like if you're running a solo trap, you don't even want the researches for the like tier 4 traps because it's too much research power. So these just really have no place compared to the other options. Rallied army marching speed, I don't even know why this exists. Like if you're a rally leader, you want to buff your stats, not your marching speed. It's a really, really weird stat. I can't even think of a use for it. Like maybe if you don't have bugles and you're like a one alliance kingdom. But even then, like you still just want to get the most bang for your buck out of your stats, I feel like. Reinforced capacity, it's like what I said with bow attack, it is good. It's like the reverse of rally size expansion. Like if you're tanking rallies, it might be... I haven't done the maths, but it might be the best stat. Probably not better than like total attack if you have 50 mil troops, to be honest, but one of the better stats. Well, it will... So I guess it's not just about defeating more, it helps spreading the losses, which in practice swings fights just as much. So like if you're a rally tank, it'll probably be like A tier maybe, but for general use, probably down here, because like you could just run total attack and it have the same effect of it helping you tank rallies. You could have like total attack, cav attack, imp attack, spear attack. But then that would also help you like holding locations in AC and Siege of Winterfell and solo attacks, which reinforced capacity is very all in on such a niche thing. So I think it has to be in a low tier because of that. And then rally size expansion, if you're like a middling rally lead for your alliance, it's probably SS. 100k troops will give more damage than any other option, at least to a point of diminishing returns where the rally size gets crazy high already. So if you have like 4 mil rally sizes, this will be very good, and I think it is definitely one of the best options. Maybe S is too high, maybe it could go into A, but I think it does belong in those top tiers just because if you're the rally lead for your alliance, you probably should have this. And that necessity of it, I think, really pushes it up in the tiers. And I guess that's all of them. Like you could definitely shift some things around, some things are definitely subjective. Like total health and army health reduction could probably go down a tier. Imp health could probably go down a tier. Rally size expansion could arguably go down a tier, especially for general use. Like if you're not rallying much at all, this loses so much value and just shouldn't be ran because you lose so much stats. Like if you have 500k extra rally size, that's great, but you'd be losing the equivalent of 200% spear attack, which would also help your rallies themselves, plus defending, plus attacking. So this is very niche. It could lose places for that, but it's my tier list, so I'm putting it there. And I think that's it. And that's all the options ranked. So I'll say it again, this is very subjective. It depends on how you're building your account. These aren't one rule fits all whatsoever, but it is a good general baseline, I think.